Attention challenge participants. I'm Allie Mashadi, your host for this Idea to Outline challenge, and you are amazing. Today is day 5, the final day of our challenge. You made it. Give yourself a huge pat on the back and then settle in because we're going to finish strong today. So, now that you have your framework, or what we call the macro structure of your book, it's time to start fleshing it out a bit in more detail so you also have the microstructure mapped out before you begin writing. Now, you probably have a good sense by now of how hard it is to stay focused when you're a creative person with so many great ideas. This is why it's critical to spend some time outlining your book in detail before you start writing. Because when you have a clear and powerfully constructed outline, it's going to make the writing of your book so much faster and easier. Now, some of you may be starting to feel a bit antsy looking at your rough outline. Perhaps you've never worked with an outline before. Maybe you have some misgivings about how this process is going to go. One of the most common reasons that I hear writers stating as to why they don't like outlines is that they feel like an outline confines them somehow, right? Or they're worried that if they, write this outline and then they write the book, and what if they have new ideas, and what if things change? They feel like the outline is carved in stone and then they can't change it. And that feels restrictive. They don't like that. But this kind of thinking is absolutely wrong. An outline is a roadmap to help make sure you get where you want to go, or more specifically, to make sure that you get your reader where he or she wants to go. But it is flexible. In fact, it's very normal to have new, maybe even better ideas as you write or do research and actually create your book. It's also very easy to get distracted as you write and end up going off course or trying to pack too much into your book. So you're going to end up wasting a lot of time and energy, and your results are going to be something that doesn't suit your goals or deliver on your promise to the reader. And we don't want that. However, when you work through this deliberate process that we've been working during the last few days, and when you've created a strong framework that's informed by knowledge of who you want to help and exactly what they want from you, then having that outline becomes a crucial touchstone. As you write, having that outline to refer to allows you to consider if and how new ideas fit into what you already had planned, if they should be saved for another book or type of content, or if they're so brilliant that it actually warrants changing your plans to accommodate them. Without an outline, it's way too easy to just get distracted by the excitement of these new ideas and end up getting totally derailed, ultimately writing a book that doesn't make sense or have the impact that you hoped for. The outline is what helps ensure you make choices that keep you moving in the right direction to save you time, energy, and even some money later, because you'll need to hire out for fewer rounds of professional editing when you use an outline and write a much more cohesive book from the first draft. So, how exactly do we take the framework we outlined yesterday and build on it into a much more meaty and detailed outline that you can write to? So a really good way to jumpstart your creativity in this process and ensure that you don't miss anything obvious that your reader may be expecting is to look at what steps or points of entry your competitors are using. Check out books that are speaking to your target audience or that make a promise to readers similar to yours. In addition to those high-level steps or chapters, look at what subtopics are in the chapters as well. Overall, you want to ask yourself, what topics are these people covering? What topics would you also want to cover, with your own style, of course? What topics are in these other competitive books that perhaps don't apply to you? Maybe they don't apply to your target audience or to your particular philosophy or take on the subject. And, perhaps most important of all, what's missing from these books that you know you want to make sure yours covers? Are there opportunities for you to write a better book, or for you to take a certain angle or nail a certain niche based on what other people haven't covered yet or haven't covered in detail? Now, if you're really struggling with this, Here's a hack that may help you out. Come at the question of topics backwards. That is, don't think about what you want to put in the book. Think about what kinds of content you'd create for a format that may be a little more comfortable or familiar to you. Sometimes, if a book feels intimidating, you might find that the ideas flow more easily if you think from the perspective of a format that's more familiar or comfortable to you instead. So, for example, imagine that you're teaching people through a video series, or a series of blog posts, or perhaps even a live or virtual workshop or presentation. There are dozens of ways to deliver content. These are just a few ideas. The point is, instead of focusing on the book, focus on how you will teach your audience. So, for example, if you did a video series on each step of your process, what would you want to cover in each video? What questions might someone in the audience likely ask you about each main topic if you were speaking or teaching this live? Here is yet another way to approach this process of starting to flesh out your subtopics and ideas. Remember that list of possible promises that you wrote down on day 3? And the lists of pain points and challenges that your clients face on days 3 and on day 4? Also on day 4, while you were mapping out those high-level steps of the process, you may have had ideas for baby steps or half steps that didn't quite make it into that bigger framework. I want you to take all of those notes back out, put them all together somewhere you can look at them. Because now we're going to add to this collection. Look at these different challenges and pain points and questions and things that you wrote down. Are there ways that you already help people with these things? And if so, start writing down what some of those ways are, what some of those tactics or practices might be. And maybe brainstorm some new ways that you could additionally help people that maybe you're not already doing right now. Add in some ideas related to these topics that maybe you just have strong opinions on. If there are things that you find yourself frequently pontificating about on social media, or things that you really like to get on a soapbox about related to these topics, write those down. And don't forget to list out any common beliefs or misconceptions that your reader or client might have about what you do, things they need to know, outcomes they want. So in addition to your main promise, what are some other related things that they might want to have happen that you can address? Make sure everything that you're jotting down is all related to the central promise of your book. Now, one last trick. Look at each chapter topic or step and see if that further helps you to generate ideas. So think about each chapter, which represents a step or an element of some kind in their overall journey to transformation or whatever outcome it is that you've promised. We talked about the reader's journey in the context of the whole book, but now I want you to try to think of a journey in the context of each individual chapter. Think of each chapter as a kind of journey within itself. If understanding the chapter's central idea or being able to take the chapter's main step forward is the outcome, then what does your reader need to understand or do first, next, and last to get there? Are there any steps or points of entry where a person reading a book might need extra information or guidance since you're not immediately accessible to them, right? This is another example of where things don't always translate to the page. When you're coaching somebody or when you're there live, if somebody needs more information or has questions, they can raise their hand and ask. In a book, they can't do that. So what points, questions, concerns might people be bringing up that you can proactively address around that chapter topic in the chapter? In other words, how can you help a reader guide him or herself in a way that emulates how you would guide your clients in a live or one-to-one situation? Now, this is a practice you're going to want to take some time with. There's going to be a lot of shifting ideas. There's going to be things that you put in and then things maybe later that you take out. You're going to find some things are redundant and make sure you're not covering the same things in different chapters. So you want to brainstorm first and, start putting all of these things together. You're going to take these different ideas and look at the different steps that you've outlined in your framework and put them together. I'm going to give you more specific guidance on that in your action assignment. And with that, I'm going to wrap up this final daily training for our challenge. And I can't believe it's over already. Well, it's almost over, because remember that our Next Steps webinar is coming up on August 3rd at 11 a.m. Pacific and 2 p.m. Eastern. And you really don't want to miss this, you guys, because I'll be sharing some critical issues that stop nonfiction writers in their tracks and can really derail a book project. And I don't want that to happen to you. So be sure you plan to attend. You'll be getting some emails soon with links to join and all that good stuff. For now, just make sure it's on your calendar. And now, go back to today's email to review your daily action assignment and the question of the day. See you in the Facebook group.